If you're receiving a Dutch pension or approaching retirement age right now, January 2026 brings news that will directly impact the amount of money landing in your bank account each month. And the truth is far more complex than a simple increase or cut. On January 1st, 2026, multiple critical changes converge simultaneously. The annual indexation decisions from major pension funds, the continued rollout of the wet toekomstpensioen affecting benefit calculations, adjustments to the AOW state pension tied to minimum wage increases, and revised tax brackets that alter your net pension income. For the 3.8 million people currently receiving AOW and the millions more drawing occupational pensions from funds like ABP, PFCW, and PMT, this month represents a decisive moment where some will see increases of up to 3.5%, while others face stagnation or even reductions, depending on their specific fund's financial health and transition status. You need the full truth about what's actually happening to your pension right now, stripped of political rhetoric and media sensationalism, so you can understand exactly where your retirement income stands in 2026. The Dutch pension landscape entering 2026 reflects decades of evolution and recent turbulence that has left many retirees confused and anxious about their financial security. The AOW state pension, established in 1957 as the foundation of Dutch retirement income, has historically been indexed twice yearly to match increases in the statutory minimum wage, ensuring that basic pension income keeps pace with the cost of living. However, the occupational pension system, covering approximately 90% of Dutch employees through mandatory participation in industry-wide or company pension funds, operates under entirely different rules that have undergone dramatic transformation since the 2008 financial crisis. Between 2008 and 2022, many major pension funds were forced to freeze or cut benefits because their coverage ratios, the measure of assets versus liabilities, fell below the legally required minimum of 104.2%. The ABP Civil Service Pension Fund, serving 2.9 million participants and beneficiaries, went years without providing full indexation, meaning retirees saw their purchasing power erode as inflation outpaced their pension growth. The indexation freeze affected an entire generation of retirees who had worked their entire careers expecting automatic cost of living adjustments. Then came the monumental 2019 pension agreement and the 2023 passage of the wet toekomstpensioen, which fundamentally restructured how pensions are calculated, distributed, and adjusted. As of January 2026, we're in the critical transition phase where some funds have already converted to the new system, while others are preparing for conversion by 2027 or 2028, creating a confusing patchwork where your neighbor might experience different pension changes than you, despite similar work histories. The situation in January 2026 varies dramatically depending on which pension fund manages your occupational pension and whether you receive AOW state pension. For AOW recipients, there is positive news. As of January 1st, 2026, the gross AOW amount for a single person increased to approximately €1,423 per month, and for couples, the combined amount rose to approximately €1,949 per month. This represents an increase of roughly 2.8% compared to December 2025, directly tied to the minimum wage adjustment that took effect on the same date. This is a real increase that will appear in your January payment. However, the net amount you actually receive depends on your tax situation, and this is where complexity emerges. The 2026 tax brackets have shifted, with the first bracket covering income up to €38,098 taxed at 35.82%, and income above that threshold taxed at 49.5%. For many AOW recipients with additional occupational pension income, this means that while your gross pension increases, your net increase might be smaller than expected due to tax withholding adjustments. Now, for occupational pensions, the picture becomes far more varied and requires you to know your specific fund situation. The ABP announced in December 2025 that it would provide a 3.27% indexation increase effective January 2026 for current beneficiaries, the first full indexation in years, bringing relief to millions of public sector retirees. The Healthcare Pension Fund PFZW similarly announced indexation of approximately 3.1% for January 2026. These are genuine increases reflecting improved coverage ratios as investment returns strengthened and interest rates normalized. However, smaller pension funds and those in financially weaker positions may provide partial indexation or no indexation at all, and a handful of funds in severe financial distress could even implement benefit cuts if their coverage ratio remains critically low. Additionally, if your pension fund completed its transition to the new wet toe comps pension and system in late 2025, your January 2026 payment reflects the converted amount under the new defined contribution framework, which might differ from what you received in December 2025, depending on how the Inveren conversion calculated your personal pension capital. The consequences of these January 2026 changes create both opportunities and risks that you must understand clearly. If you're among the millions receiving full or substantial indexation from well-funded pension schemes, this represents the first meaningful restoration of purchasing power after years of erosion, potentially adding hundreds of euros annually to your retirement budget and helping you cope with lingering inflation in essential costs like energy and groceries. For those receiving only AOW without significant occupational pension, the 2.8% increase provides modest but real improvement, though it may still lag behind your personal inflation experience if you face higher than average costs in housing or healthcare. However, the risks are significant for certain groups. If your pension fund is among those providing zero indexation or worse implementing cuts, you face continued erosion of purchasing power at a time when inflation, though moderated from 2022 to 2023 peaks, still affects daily expenses. You must take specific actions immediately to understand and optimize your January 2026 pension situation. First, verify your actual January payment by checking your bank account in the first week of January and comparing it precisely to your December 2025 payment, noting both the payment date and amount. Second, log into your pension fund's online portal or contact them directly to obtain a written statement explaining your specific indexation percentage for 2026 and the reasoning behind it. Every fund must communicate this information transparently to beneficiaries. Third, obtain your annual pension statement, which pension funds are legally required to provide, showing your gross pension amount, tax withholding, and any deductions for healthcare premiums or other obligations. Review this document carefully for errors or unexpected changes. Fourth, if you receive both AOW and occupational pension, calculate your total annual income and verify that you're in the correct tax bracket, because incorrect withholding can result in unexpected tax bills or refunds when you file your annual return. You can use the Belastingdienst online calculator at belastingdienst.nl to check your tax situation. Fifth, if you're surprised by a lack of indexation or a benefit cut, immediately contact your pension fund's customer service to understand why your fund couldn't provide increases and request information about their recovery plan and when you might expect future indexation. Sixth, if you receive means-tested benefits, report your pension increase to the relevant agencies, including Toeslagen for rent assistance and healthcare subsidies, because failure to report income changes can result in repayment demands later. Seventh, review your household budget in light of your actual net pension increase, adjusting your spending plans realistically based on the money you're actually receiving, rather than gross figures reported in media. Finally, if you disagree with your pension fund's indexation decision or believe errors were made in your payment calculation, you have the right to file a formal complaint with your fund's complaints procedure. And if unresolved, you can escalate to the CAFID Ombudsman Service at cafid.nl. The January 2026 pension changes represent a critical juncture where years of uncertainty begin to resolve for some retirees, while new complexities emerge for others, and your financial security depends on understanding exactly where you stand in this landscape. This is not a moment for passive acceptance of whatever appears in your bank account. The differences between gross and net increases, between full indexation and partial indexation, between old system guarantees and new system volatility, can amount to thousands of euros over the course of your retirement. With pension funds required to communicate changes by mid-January and tax implications affecting your 2026 annual return filing in early 2027, the actions you take right now to verify, understand, and respond to your specific situation will determine whether you maximize your entitlements or leave money unclaimed. Check your payments, contact your fund, verify your tax situation, and protect your rights. Your retirement income is too important to trust to assumptions or headlines. The full truth requires you to investigate your personal circumstances, and the time to act is now in January 2026, while the information is fresh and corrections can still be made efficiently.